Hi there, Nigel Saunders here of KW Bonsai. Today is going to be an exciting day. We're going to be repotting the Ficus over temple planting into this pot. This pot was made by Lewis from the Bonsai at the RBG Club, the Royal Botanical Gardens. He makes these pots himself, and when I saw it, I liked the design on the front of it here, and I thought it would look pretty good with my root over temple planting. I thought the style of the pot would suit that kind of planting, and I hope it does. So he doesn't sell his pots, but I've kind of been given this pot, so thanks, Lewis. It's I'll take good care of it. A little earlier on, I tried making my own pot. I used backer board, which is tile board that they use in bathrooms and that to put, you know, a base for the tiles. So I cut out a sheet and I bolted feet to it, and I started planting the Ficus over temple on top of here, and as soon as I watered it, it all went kind of soggy and drooped and broke. So I thought this stuff was going to be more waterproof than it actually was. It gets soft with water when it's soaked. So that idea is gone. I'll have to find a better base material and try this again in future. So this pot is about the same size as the piece I was going to use, so I think the temple will fit nicely in it. So I did, maybe I'll show you some clips of that video where I was making and repotting the root over temple onto this pot I tried to make, and then we'll get back to potting it in this pot. So these might be considered outtakes, I guess, or failures or experiments that didn't work out. So you can see how the potting process works with the root over temple. So we're going to try it in this pot now. The tree has been growing really well in its new soil. So I'm using the same soil. It's basically turfus and perlite mixed 50% or 50-50. And no organic matter. I'm just going to rely on fertilizer for this one. In the background there you can see the Ficus root over temple that we're going to plant in the new pot. It's growing really well in this new soil. In the new pot here, I'm going to keep my soil on hand. I may have to build a layer underneath the pyramid or the temple to build it up somewhat. I want to get the temple as high as I can and kind of extend the slope of the temple down into the soil line to make it look even larger. Here we go. There's no easy and graceful way of doing this. You just have to pick it up, roots and all, like that, and we'll bring it over. It looks like it fits really well in this new pot. So we have to get a position, a height, and all that good stuff. Let's work on that. So my initial impression, just placing it in the pot like that, it looks good in the pot. The pot's the right size for it. Definitely the canopy could be wider on the tree to kind of fill the pot more. But yeah, I think I like the pot color and the style. I think it's a good match for this tree. So I think we can raise the tree up higher. So we're going to build up our soil level. Okay. So we definitely have to move it more central. It's too far over. We've got to get these roots down into the soil. I'm going to move the temple towards the back of the planting as far as I can. Let's see how it's looking. Wow. That's quite the tall temple now, eh? I'm going to give the tree a bit of a haircut up top, so we're going to prune it to a rounded canopy. We'll start at the highest point of the tree and round our canopy from that point. Just cutting through everything. It's looking better. I could probably prune it even lower, I think. And I think I will. I'm going to come down in height, probably to about here. I could take it down further, but I don't want it to be too low of a tree. I think, you know, we've got to fill the canopy out to the side more, left and right and front and back, and get it more of an umbrella type shape. But yeah, I think we'll keep the height as it is and work on filling out the rest of it. In this new pot and soil, it's got lots of room for roots to grow. I think we're going to get some pretty vigorous growth out of this tree soon. So the next operation is going to be sculpting this soil. We want to get the slope of the soil to match the slope of the temple and then level out at the bottom. And the moss will hold all this in place. And we'll have to do a lot of cleanup up top, get all this soil off the pyramid or the temple. The tree is growing aerial roots from the branches, so they may touch down eventually. We want our soil line just below the lip of the pot. Okay, I think we're gonna have to find some moss as our next job. I have the little cuttings that we were growing around the temple, and I'm going to plant them, and we have to find spots for them to kind of create a jungle look to this planting. It looked like the temple was kind of lost to the jungle. So I planted the little cuttings around it. As I prune the trees more, I'll get more cuttings, and I'll just keep planting them. And eventually we'll get kind of that forest growing up around the temple, which will look hopefully pretty good eventually. It'll take a while. So I think we're ready to start placing moss on the planting. We're going to have to clean some of the soil off the temple and expose as much of the stones as we can. And then underneath that will be moss, and it'll sort of gradually transition up to the stone part. So I've gone out and collected a whole bunch of nice green moss. I collect moss that's growing in partial full sun. So usually it's on one side of a building that gets, so usually it gets sun in the morning or in the evening, but gets full sun on it. And it's usually a fine kind of velvety type moss I pick. So we're going to plant that on our temple. And you can see it has quite a thick layer of soil underneath it. So we need to wash that off and plant it so it conforms to our soil. So I've washed the back of the moss to get as much soil off as possible and wet the moss. So when we stick it down, it just kind of conforms to the shape of the soil. Push it in to make sure we get good contact. Just just like that, and that should grow really well. So I don't want very much soil up on the stonework, so we're gonna try and take that off. I'll get a brush and we'll brush it off that part. So I've got a soft paintbrush. We're just getting rid of all this soil that's up here. There's the base of the temple. There's a root growing along it there. So that's as far down as we can kind of expose the temple. So we want to keep the same slope and get some moss on it. So I'll keep putting moss on the temple and cleaning it up as I go. And we'll come back in a while and see how it's looking. Here's my progress so far. I'm kind of continuing the slope of the pyramid. I think it's looking good. It looks like it's going to start raining. There's a big black cloud overhead and it's spitting a little bit. So we may have to continue this a little later on. So after supper I'm back to work on the tree. I've got, I would say, 70% of it mossed. So let's go have a look at it. I still have to do all around the back and fix it all up and clean it, but you kind of get the idea of where we're going. I'm really liking the tree in this pot. I covered my hand up. I was thinking, would it look better in a shallower pot? So I covered my hand up, and no, it doesn't. It needs a bit of mass in the pot to counteract the temple. So I think it's, yeah, I think this pot is like the perfect match for this tree. So it's getting dark. I'm going to continue tomorrow. Hi everyone, it's the next day today. The weather's not too good today. It kind of rained all night and it's still raining now. So we'll see what we can get done on the temple today. We got to finish putting the moss on. I've got to put a lot of stones to, you know, for rubble, and maybe some fences and stuff made of stone. So we still have a lot of work to do on this planting. So it's still raining out. I've finished the temple for today. Let's go in and have a look at it. When I built this pyramid, it was designed to look like an ancient Mayan temple. One of the pyramids you would find in Mexico. And I think it gives that feeling. I'm happy with it. So I've added rubble to the bottom and some moss up top to kind of make that gradual transition from the rocks to the moss. I think it kind of works. It gives the illusion, you know, the actual rock temple ends here, and this is just soil beneath it. But it gives the illusion that the temple goes all the way down, that it's larger than it actually is. It'll be interesting with this planting that as the moss grows, we get more trees in that. We might go from you know, a very mild jungle like it is now to a very lost looking temple, one that hasn't been discovered yet. So it'll be interesting to play around with different looks of this planting, making it look really wild, lost in the jungle, or as it is now, quite tame. I'll give you a tour of the temple from above. Now we'll go around back, show you what the back looks like. So a steeper wall of moss just going down to the lip of the pot. So the planting's, you know, pushed to the back as far as we can get it. So lots more work to do on this still. The trees needs a lot more development. Get that canopy going, get more growth growing around the jungle. Yeah, I think it'll look pretty good someday. I'm really happy with the pot. I couldn't ask for a better pot, I think. So thanks, Lewis, again. That's it for today. Nigel Saunders in the rain. Do something green today. Donate to your local conservation efforts. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.